Hi, welcome everyone to Coleman Report Live, April 29, 2021 edition. We have John Riosti. Welcome back, John. Our weekly guest, American banker reporter, and Katie Roach. Good to see you. I am Joseph Coleman. I'm filling in for Bob today. He is hitting the road and taking a little break, so good for him. We have a ton of information to cover today. John, we'll talk to you in a little bit about what you've been reporting on, but we have some poll questions. We're going to talk about compensation because we just released our newest report. And Katie, we can get into this, but first question is: change in total average compensation last year increased for which banking department? We'll go ahead and see these answers, and then Katie, you can give us the stats.
Yeah, I think people are all over the place. About 30% were correct in this one, and that it was department manager that, at least from our stats that we received, it looks like they had a 13.9% increase. And when we say total average compensation, we're talking about things like bonuses as well. And we did see that PPP did affect that one quite significantly.
Right. And the second question is simply which decreased the most. We'll go ahead and launch this and then talk about the results. I think, yeah, everybody's coming in pretty strong with the correct answer. Katie, go ahead. Are they right with the services? Yeah.
They are. So the thing is with servicing, we're probably going to see next year much larger emphasis on that. But right now with PPP and also with the 11-12 payments, servicing kind of took a back burner, and we saw a 9.1% decrease in average compensation for total, including bonuses and things like that. But we definitely expect that to increase in the future.
Wonderful. And they will be released. Everybody who did participate in that survey, I have you on my list, and I will be emailing you each individual report. If you do want to order the big report, just send me an email and I'll take care of it. Let's move ahead to stats. We're going to talk a lot about what's left and big picture stuff. So how much is left? We'll go ahead and let you answer that, and we'll pick John's brain for a bit. Katie, how'd they do?
They did decently. I think maybe they're expecting it to go a little faster than it has. It was at about 36 billion, or at least that's what we're estimating based on the most recent data. It does look like we're averaging a little bit less than $10 billion per week. And so given that, it does look like we'll probably make it a decent way through May right now. And we were kind of discussing this right before the show, and it does look like Congress was actually maybe right in that it'll last us maybe to the end, but it is going to get really tight toward the end.
John, what do you see? Are you seeing demand decrease and the numbers are right on track for May 31st deadline?
A couple things. I think demand is decreasing, and then you have to ask yourself why. Sort of the effect of shuttered venue, the effect of the restaurant relief. Those are both grants, so that's got to be having an effect. The emphasis, the continued emphasis on very small loans, obviously that means program funds would last longer. And then I know that there has been quite a bit of talk, perhaps sub rosa, on fraud, and probably some tightening there. I mean, when you combine all that up, you get what it appears to be, and what we believe is a slowdown in sort of the overall demand.
Can you give us a quick update on hold codes? Is there a big population out there still being held up, or has that pretty much been resolved?
No, I don't know that there's been any change on that. I think that's still affecting things. I guess there's less of an urgency about it because once the program does end, the funds and or the funding sunsets, whatever comes first. But it can't go beyond May 31st. There's still that extra month.
Right. Applications can be submitted before May 31st, but we're going through June 30th.
June 30th. So there's not the urgency because nobody is. I would hope that nobody is going to lose out on this because they just couldn't get the loan processed by the deadline.
Excellent. Katie, give us, what's this map? And I read nationally the 34% of small businesses have closed compared to January 2020. Sobering numbers. Give us a little update on how they broke this up by city.
Yeah, so this is a report that was put out by Opportunity Insights, and they're looking at how different cities are doing as far as reopening and things like that. You're exactly right that 34% are still closed versus January 2020. So that's most likely pandemic related for most of these. We are seeing places like Salt Lake, Nashville, and Memphis doing quite a bit better than some other places. As you can see on this report, it looks like Washington, D.C., Boston, Oakland, and San Jose are still pretty high. We've got almost 50% still closed in some of those areas. So it depends on the parts of the country, but it is good. We're starting to see a lot more move into that purple section that they've labeled as being more open. So that is definitely a good sign. We are moving in the right direction.
Yeah, and this next chart is excellent chart. It's the revenue losses for professional businesses versus leisure and hospitality. John, give us a quick update on what's going on with hospitality. We talked briefly that they don't have their own program versus restaurant. How do you see this chart and what do you see in hospitality and restaurants?
Well, they still seem to be sort of the odd sector out. Shuttered Venues program has reopened officially. The restaurant relief is now active, and there's no specific pool of relief for restaurants, even though it's hard to imagine a sector that was hurt more. I guess right. You could probably say restaurants, but not all restaurants. So, so they're still suffering. I think, when I look at the bank earnings, their hotel portfolios, their hospitality portfolios, seem to be weathering things better than expected. PPP probably played a big role in that, the second draw loans, but also the fact that a lot of the lenders who are heavy into hotel are have been very prudent about it. They've been requiring outside injection of funding into the hotels, and so far that seems to be happening. So they're getting by. I would be interested to know how many have closed with no plans to reopen. I don't think a lot because my understanding is the smaller hotels, the travel that are not connected to conventions and urban downtowns have weathered the storm much better than
right.
Ones in places like Chicago. Things that are connected to business conventions that still haven't come back.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to talk to Anthony Thaler. We're probably going to do our hotel webinar in May, and he always has a heat map of what markets are doing the best and which are doing the worst, and it's totally rewritten the book on what our conventional thoughts were on hospitality. But as a positive slide out of all this is business applications are hockey sticking up, Katie, what's going on with this? People are starting to be much more entrepreneurial and starting to find new services that they can provide.
Yeah, there's a few reasons for this, and we can go over all of those. The first reason is the one the SBA has noted, that a lot of businesses that were kind of operating under the table are now becoming a lot more official so that they can get PPP and other funding. So you're starting to see a spike partially because of that. So that's not going to necessarily be new businesses, but they are now operating with an EIN and things like that. Another reason you're going to see this is there was a significant number of people who turned around and used that stimulus payment, their stimulus checks, to help start a business. And maybe that was the amount that they really needed to make that difference. And we are starting to see several businesses that opened because of that. So there's those things. There's also anybody who lost a job. Well, this was their opportunity to, if they wanted to, start a business. So there's definitely a lot of growth for all three of those reasons. And I expect quite a bit of that will maintain for the next couple of years.
Let's talk about the House. What's going on in the House, Katie?
Yeah, so yesterday there was a hearing in the Small Business Committee to review the role of immigrant-owned small businesses and how they affect the economy and how they were impacted by the pandemic. And just a couple highlights, they were looking at immigrant entrepreneurs start businesses at a higher rate than the general population, accounting for 28% of Main Street small business owners, which is quite significant. Also, between February and April, COVID closed over 1 million immigrant-owned small businesses, dropping the active rate of those businesses by 36%. So they are deeply affected by the COVID pandemic. The SBA did address that they do have some programs that are geared toward that group, such as small business development centers, women business centers, and the SCORE program. They are looking to start some more, but they didn't really address, at least from what I've seen, anything additional yet.
Yeah, John, anything to add on this, John?
Not so much on this, but I'd like to go back. Katie was talking about some of the indicators, both, business startups in what markets. We saw the slide with what markets were doing well, which ones weren't doing as well. And then the increase in EIN numbers. I had a chance to talk, I guess it was just yesterday, with a gentleman at Jack Henry and Associates. He is a senior risk analyst there. He was telling me they have a solution that's tied to asset-based lending, but it covers just a large kind of grab bag of NAIC numbers. So these are the types of businesses that take advantage of asset-based financing, and that they sort of track as a result of I guess, servicing their solutions. And he says that they've always viewed that as an economic indicator, that when activity there starts to go down, obviously the economy isn't doing well, and he said it's just the opposite now, that they're seeing a big increase in activity, so that hopefully going forward we'll see that. And I guess the GDP numbers that just came out reflect that as well. So,
Katie, excellent. Katie, we opened up the shuttered grant.
Shuttered, yeah.
And tell us about the technical difficulties. Are they back up and running, or what's going on with this?
Yeah, so a lot of people know a couple weeks ago they did try to open, and I think they were only open for about 3 or 4 hours before they were having some technical issues. Luckily, they were able to solve those, and they reopened on Monday. And within that first 24-hour period of being opened, the SBA said they received about 17,356 applications. At the time when they were reporting this, about 9,500 of those had been just started. 8,000 had been officially submitted. So it does seem like there is a lot of attraction to this program. It was very much something everybody was waiting for and they wanted. So hopefully we'll get some more data as it progresses, but it does seem like it's a good program for small businesses and it is being utilized.
And just give a reminder, Monday is restaurant opens up on the 3rd, correct? And we are projecting the demand to be in these numbers, correct? I mean, just through the roof.
Yeah, we've looked at, the only reason I don't think it's going to necessarily run out extremely quickly is they have set some set-asides there. So for the very first opening, I believe it's only available to people who've had a 90% or more loss in revenue. So I think that's going to slowly gear up, but it is going to be a very popular program.
Excellent. John, what are you reporting on? I know we talked about it before, but just give a quick recap of your newest article.
Well, one of the one we just did was focusing on one bank, Bank OZK, and it's the challenge it's facing in keeping its CRE numbers up. It's not a credit quality issue. It's I guess you'd call it an early payoff issue. They're facing a wave of clients that are paying off their loans, and it's finding it hard to replace those loans. So they're going to be doing some more commercial lending, C&I type lending, which is a bit of a change for them. But what we're also going to be looking at going forward is once again the regular SBA programs. You know, we've reported on the fact that the enhancements SBA has put in place, the 90% guarantees on for 7A loans, the waiving the fees, the continuation of the 1102 payments. That's making the program very attractive, and the numbers are beginning or have finally begun to really reflect that. If you're paying attention, and I know a lot of people are, to the weekly lending reports, there's been big upward trends.
Do you see increased competition? Do you see lenders coming into this market significantly in the next 6 months because of that activity?
Ask SBA. You know, they've had so many new, or not new perhaps, but returning lenders because of PPP. I mean, 5,000 banks, and most of them were very active in the PPP. Is that translating into more involvement with 7A, with 504, and the same with credit unions? And that's been a goal for a long time for SBA, is to get more involvement from credit unions, and there were, you know, quite a few, upwards, getting close to 1,000 that were involved in PPP. That's a lot, and you know, will more of those jump into 7A? But whether it's from new lenders or whether it's just from, you know, added production from the old existing lenders who sort of focus on 7A, the trends are big. The pace is ahead of last year. It's also ahead of FY19, which obviously was a better year than FY20 for regular 7A, and it's beginning to sort of flirt with the levels we saw in 17 and 18, which were record numbers. So so obviously, you know, that's coming. And I was just talking to a lender, and he said as the year draws on, and right now a lot of these enhancements are set to sunset at the end of FY21. You know, there could very well be a rush to get loans approved so they can take advantage of all of this. So you could see some continued, maybe even spectacular growth. For those going forward.
Well, excellent. We love when you come on Thursdays. Katie, thank you so much. These are upcoming webinars. We're going to talk about equity injection, collateral, unforgiven servicing, and the most important, I think the restaurant financing one is just going to be amazing. So check out our webinars. Give me an email. Call us anytime with your questions. And this concludes today's webinar. Thank you for joining, everyone. And we'll see you tomorrow at 1 o'clock Eastern. Thanks, John. Thanks, Kate.
Thank you.
Have a good day.